Good evening. As chairperson of the Board of Education, I hereby call to order the July 16th, 2024 regular meeting. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present and to our television viewers. The board, superintendent, and I are pleased that you have joined us as we celebrate achievement, review information, and make policy decisions related to the effective operations of the Hartford Public Schools. This is a regular meeting, and all items that will be discussed or voted on this evening have been posted as required by state law. As the Hartford Board of Education, we are here to set goals, listen to the reports of the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, and personnel appointments, and to make policy for the district. We are not here to make management decisions or solve the problems of individuals. Management is the responsibility of the superintendent. The monthly meetings of the board are open to the public. They are the time when the board conducts its business of governing the school system in a public arena. The regular meetings are not meetings with the public. Therefore, comments from the audience will be confined to the time designated for the public to address the board. Decorum and courtesy are important elements in the effective public meetings. Please silence your cell phones or communication devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Since it is legally mandated that proceedings be accurately recorded, I may have to ask for order periodically should noise begin to interfere with our recording capabilities. I am pleased that you have taken this time to join us this evening. We are very proud of the school system and thank you for your interest in the Hartford Public Schools. Now this will be read in Spanish.
Buenas noches. El presidente de la Junta de Educación de las Escuelas Públicas de Hartford ha llamado a orden esta reunión ordinaria de la Junta del 16 de julio del 2024. Damos una cálida bienvenida a todas las personas presentes y a nuestros televidentes. La Junta y la Superintendente se complacen que se haya unido a nosotros para celebrar logros, revisar información y tomar decisiones relacionadas con el funcionamiento efectivo de las escuelas públicas de Hartford. Esta es una reunión ordinaria y todos los asuntos que serán discutidos o votados en esta tarde han sido notificados como lo requiere la ley estatal. Como Junta de Educación de Hartford, estamos aquí para establecer metas, escuchar los informes de la superintendente, aprobar los presupuestos, contratos y nombramientos del personal y establecer normas para el distrito. No estamos aquí para tomar decisiones administrativas o resolver problemas individuales. La administración es la responsabilidad de la superintendente. Las reuniones mensuales de la Junta están abiertas al público. Son el momento en que la Junta lleva a cabo su tarea de gobernar el sistema escolar en un espacio público. Las reuniones regulares no son reuniones con el público. Por lo tanto, los comentarios de la audiencia se limitarán al tiempo designado para el público dirigirse a la Junta. El decoro, la cortesía son elementos importantes en reuniones públicas eficaces. Por favor, silencie sus teléfonos celulares o dispositivos de comunicación y absténganse de hablar mientras otros están hablando, ya que es el mandato legal de que los procedimientos sean grabados con precisión. Es posible que tengamos que pedir orden periódicamente si el ruido interfiere con nuestras capacidades de la grabación. Nos complace que se haya tomado el tiempo para estar con nosotros esta tarde. Estamos muy orgullosos de ese sistema escolar y les damos las gracias por unirse a las escuelas públicas de Hartford.
Thank you. We will now move on to public comments. Mr. Mills?
We, as a board, in collaboration with the superintendent and district leadership, are committed to cultivating a culture of excellence at all levels of HPS. We thank you for taking the time to attend tonight's board meeting. We appreciate you coming out to learn more about Hartford Public Schools and for sharing your thoughts and concerns. We have established a protocol to track and respond to concerns raised. We want you to know that we take your concerns seriously, and to that end, staff will follow up within 48 hours if follow-up is required via the preferred method of contact the speaker has indicated on the sign-in sheet. We will follow this no-contact method of following up for the time being, adhering to safety protocols. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes to speak. At the 2-minute mark, the bell will ring, letting you know that you have 1 minute left. At the second bell, please wrap up your comments. Now this will be read in Spanish.
Nosotros, la Junta de Educación, en colaboración con la superintendente y personal del distrito, estamos comprometidos a cultivar una cultura de excelencia en todos los niveles de las escuelas públicas de Hartford. Les agradecemos que se haya tomado el tiempo para asistir a la reunión de la Junta esta noche. Les agradecemos su participación y su deseo de aprender más sobre las escuelas públicas de Hartford y también por compartir sus pensamientos y preocupaciones. Nosotros tomamos sus preocupaciones muy seriamente y hemos establecido un protocolo para el seguimiento y respuesta a inquietudes planteadas. El personal hará un seguimiento dentro de las 48 horas si fuera necesario, a través del método de contacto preferido que el orador haya indicado en la hoja del registro. Seguiremos este método de seguimiento sin contacto por el momento. Esa persona investigará su caso y se comunicará con usted dentro de las 48 horas. Les recordamos que tienen 3 minutos para hablar. Cuando han pasado 2 minutos, el timbre sonará, dejándole saber que le queda 1 minuto. Al segundo sonido, por favor, termine sus comentarios.
Thank you. Our first speaker is Mr. Michael Downs. Mr. Downs, you are in the meeting. Or you were. Okay, I am sure he'll come back. Our next speaker signed up is Miss Carol Gale. Let me just wait till she's in the meeting. Miss Gale, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. I had to turn off the YouTube. Good evening, members of the Board of Ed, student representatives, if you are with us, and superintendent. My name is Carol Gale. I am a Hartford resident and president of the Hartford Federation of Teachers. HFT urges you to please consider the following thoughts as you address tonight's agenda. Hartford Performs is a wonderful enhancement to a regular arts curriculum. Unfortunately, Hartford Public Schools does not provide a regular arts curriculum. This year, for the first time, the superintendent shared a budget template that required principals to maintain a 0.5 music and 0.5 art position in their schools. Then principals were allowed exemptions and waivers such that many of these positions were cut, some were then restored. Despite all of this, the process shows a lack of commitment on the part of the district to provide a full music and arts curriculum to every student. Hartford Performs does not replace instruction from certified professionals. They are an enhancement to certified instruction. However, many Hartford students have only received Hartford Performs. Therefore, while HFT fully supports the work of Hartford Performs and the continuation of their contract, we urge the Board of Ed to additionally support greater accountability from the district as to its provision, or lack thereof, of a robust arts curriculum. HFT has made this plea before and hopes that with new board members, it will be heard and acted upon. Hartford students have gone without for too long, and the opportunity gap of not receiving regular music and art instruction is an indication of the soft bias of lowered expectations in our school system. The contract for Connecticut Rise raises questions as well. How do we know that success at 4 high schools, shown as a comparison between 2021, the year of the pandemic, and 2024, is not simply due to the pandemic being over and the return to in-person schooling, as opposed to anything gained from this outside contract? Hartford teachers have access to much data through their data teams, PowerSchool, Naviance, test scores, etc. Were teachers asked about the impact of Connecticut Rise? Were teachers at these 4 schools asked for input on how to reduce chronic absenteeism or how to best utilize $190,000 towards that goal? Without satisfactory answers to these questions, this contract should be voted down. Finally, in light of the personnel matters on tonight's agenda, HFT must raise concern regarding labor management relations. 68 grievances were filed in school year 2023-2024, up from 33 and 10 in the 2 years prior. This trajectory illustrates the difficulty HFT has with trying to resolve concerns outside of the grievance process and speaks to the tone set by district leadership. Also, the superintendent's decision to lay off employees in April and not consistently adhere to seniority as the basis of involuntary transfers resulting from budget cuts caused undue stress and uncertainty to hundreds of employees, many of whom resigned or retired. Hartford can't afford to keep losing our experienced staff. Our students deserve better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Gale. Okay, let me see. Mr. Michael Downs is our next speaker. Michael, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. My name is Michael Downs, 74 Rosemont Street in Hartford, president of the Hartford Federation of Substitute Teachers. I'd like to start off by saying that I hope everyone's had a good summer. I'm still waiting for my summer employment to begin with the Recreation Department. Second, I was mistaken last month when I mentioned that there was that the choice of the elected Board of Education member, that replacement had been made. It had not been made, and I'm still waiting for we're still waiting for that to be made. Also, second is an in-person meeting is much better than a meeting on Zoom or the present procedure that we're using. And thirdly, instead of deciding on the extension of the superintendent's contract, let the committee formed by the mayor and the Connecticut Department of Education and composed of the superintendent, the union leaders, and other citizens of Hartford complete the study of the valuable funding sources, wasteful costs, and contracting out of union work, among other things. When that is completed, then other things may be decided concerning the personnel that work for the Board of Education. Also, fourth, it's a mystery of who is administering the summer breakfast and lunch program. It used to be done by a collaboration between recreation workers and the school system lunch program. I still have children coming up to me asking Mr. Downs, where's the food? And to the new board members, I would like to state that it is important to avoid lockouts of substitute teachers, as happened in the fall of 2020, and avoid union busting by contracting out of substitute teaching positions, among other things. Thank you, and I hope you have a good summer.
Thank you, Mr. Downs. Our next speaker is Nicole Porter. Hold on a second. Okay. Our next speaker is Ms. Nicole Porter. Ms. Porter, once you connect the audio, the floor is yours.
I'm sorry, hello, Christina. I'm not sure if you mentioned that
Oh.
the floor.
No, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Hello, board.
I could barely hear you though. Is there a
Can
way?
you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Maybe I need to speak louder.
That's better.
Thank you. I appreciate you all having me here today. I'm here to talk about the budget and some concerns as a parent, and to provide you with some color. I'm aware of some of the recent budget constraints our district faces, primarily due to special education and transportation costs. And I understand some of the reasons behind some of these challenges. And I'm not here to discuss blame or place any blame on administrators or any educators or any staff members working in our schools. I definitely appreciate everything that everyone is doing. However, I'm here as a concerned taxpayer, a Hartford resident, and as well as a parent of a child who learns differently. And I am requesting that something be done immediately to fix it. I wanted to share with you some of the hardships that my child has faced and perhaps some of the hardships other children across the district have faced that are in similar situations or have similar challenges like my son. And I believe that if we think about how we can really effectively support children with special education, we can really affect and support all children across the district. As a parent, I was upset to know this year that, or this summer, that children in 4th and 5th grade were not provided with any academic supports. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I've asked several times from our administrators if there were any supports for the for academics for our children in 4th and 5th grade, and there weren't. Now, in previous years, my child has received 120 hours for the summer, which is amazing for the simple fact that this child has significant challenges. This year, that has dropped to 24 for the total amount. I know I'm not the only parent who faced this, but I wanted to remind the board that there are children across the districts who face hardships due to COVID. And I want to remind the district that children in 4th and 5th grade missed out on a lot of the foundational work in school. And they did not, they've been paying catch up ever since. So I wanted to share this with the board so that we can really think about how these budgets are affecting children who need it. All of our children need it, but especially children that need it the most. And I want to work with the board as well as our administrators to see what we can do to support our children, especially children like my child. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. And our last speaker is Mr. Jesse Sugarman.
Good evening, board members. My name is Jesse Sugarman, and I'm the Executive Director of Communications, Marketing, and External Affairs at Hartford Public Schools. I have worked for the district since December of 2021, and a few weeks ago, I shared the bittersweet news with the superintendent that I am pursuing an opportunity outside of education and that my last day would be July 24th. Before I leave, I wanted to share a few thoughts for the public record. First, I wouldn't want to work in any other district or public school system in the state. Hartford Public Schools is filled with talented people who work tirelessly on behalf of our students. Everything we do is important. We work for the children and students in the capital city, and their success will in large part determine the success of the entire state. Our students are resilient, inspiring, and capable of achieving great things. They only need the same opportunities that their peers have in neighboring districts to be successful. Telling their stories and the stories of our staff has been the most rewarding part of my role in leading the communications team. I am fortunate to have had the opportunity to visit schools on numerous occasions to meet students who are achieving great things. Students like the Buckley student journalists who run their school website and report on school-based events under the mentorship of teacher Andrew Welch. Or the Crew Council at Sanchez Elementary, a group of remarkable young people who participate in their student government. Students like those from Hartford High and University High who gave public testimony at the legislative building to secure more funding for our district. And I'm lucky to work with dedicated staff like the Weaver alum who proudly runs her building as a principal, our Teacher of the Year winners who represent the very best of our entire city, security guards who proudly serve their buildings and keep us all safe. There are many more examples, but I understand my time is limited. One of the questions I am often asked in my current role is, how do we change the narrative? Sometimes the narrative is out of our control, like the social media trolls that don't really know our district, or trolls that run blogs that aren't really interested in constructive, productive conversations. To be honest, that narrative isn't really important. But what is important is how we all can show up and serve as ambassadors for this district. That includes those who speak at public comment, those who attend recruitment events, parents that engage in conversations when dropping off their students, and staff members who proudly represent our district. What they say will have either a positive or negative impact on our ability to recruit and hire staff and reach prospective families. Most importantly, I want to express my gratitude and appreciation for having the honor of serving this role. To the superintendent, thank you for believing in me. This is the most important job I've ever had. And although we can't always achieve perfection, we've done our very best to serve this district admirably and to ensure our community gets what they deserve. I also appreciate the opportunity to have worked by your side. It is totally exhausting to work for you. You are nonstop. You're 100% committed to the mission, but it is also incredibly inspiring. The city is lucky to have you. I hope we have made you proud. And finally, I want to thank the members of my team, Deb, Julia, and Hannah. You are three of the smartest people I've ever met. You are dedicated to our students, staff, and families, and your expertise is unrivaled. I am a better person for having worked by your side and know that HPS is in great hands with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes public comment.
Thank you. We now move on to the report of the chair. I would like to start by announcing the board member assignments to committees. Start with the Teaching and Learning Committee. The chair, Ms. Francoise Deristel Ledger. Members, Jennifer Hockenhall, Stephen Tatum, and Stephen Wilson. Policy Committee. Chair, Ms. Ruth Reynolds Fortune. Members, Ms. Francoise Deristel Ledger, Mr. Tyrone Walker, Mr. Corey Mills, Ms. Shantae Brody, and Mr. Stephen Wilson. Family and Community Engagement Committee. Chair, Mr. Stephen Tatum. Members, Jennifer Hockenhall, Ms. Francoise Deristel Ledger, and Mr. Stephen Wilson. Finance Committee. Chair, Jennifer Hockenhall. Members, Ms. Francoise Deristel Ledger, Mr. Tyrone Walker, Mr. Corey Mills, Ms. Shantae Brody, and Ms. Ruth Reynolds Fortune. And then the board assignments to CABE with Jennifer Hockenhall and Ms. Francoise Deristel Ledger, to CREC, Mr. Stephen Tatum and Mr. Stephen Wilson, Hartford Public Library, Mr. Tyrone Walker, Jamoki Academy, Mr. Stephen Wilson, and Achievement First, Ms. Francoise Deristel Ledger. The Hartford School Building Committee, Ms. Brody will remain a member, and as you can see from our consent agenda, Mr. Corey Mills will be joining. Also, we would like to let the public know that we will be continuing with our board community office hours, which is a chance for board members to connect with the community outside of board meetings. Please keep a lookout for communications with information on the next date and time and location. As a reminder, you can find the superintendent's report, full committee reports, student report, all attachments and videos in the meeting's agenda on Board Docs. All committee and workshop meetings are live streamed as well as viewable after the meeting. The YouTube links are saved in each meeting's agenda on Board Docs. I encourage the community to view the meetings and read the reports when possible. If you have any questions or feedback, please contact Ms. Christina Santiago, our board liaison, at csantiago@hartfordschools.org. Now we move on to the report of the superintendent.
Good evening, everyone. I have a few updates. First, I actually would like to thank the board for the engagement and collaboration during our retreat. I look forward to other retreats and the work ahead, specifically our strategic planning process, which will be work that is done very closely between myself and you all and our community. In terms of my report, just want to remind our community that we did start school. The school year officially started with Capital Prep. Students, staff, and parents celebrated the first day on July 8th. Pre-K students were welcomed into the Capital Prep community by teachers, community partners, and student drummers, all of whom made the first day a welcoming and joyful experience. And of course, our returning students reconnected with their peers and were greeted with warm smiles and hugs as they entered the building. So I just want to wish everyone at Capital Prep a wonderful start. I was there for their all-school community meeting, and there was certainly a lot of energy and enthusiasm for the year. A quick update on the Right to Read grant during the school year that just ended. We did receive a grant in the amount of $806,000 from the State Department of Education Center for Literacy Research and Reading Success. Specifically, those funds were utilized to purchase the Amplify M-Class Dibbles unit, Dibbles 8 Universal Screener. Teachers received materials and professional learning on how to administer the assessments and on how to analyze the results. That universal screen supports our structured literacy model and also includes home support resources. And so moving into this current year, our K through third grade teachers will continue to use the assessments to measure and to strengthen our students' foundational skills in decoding, in fluency, and in their reading comprehension. Additionally, the grant funds will support the purchase of our foundations, that's our Tier 1 student materials for our kinder through third grade, which are used to teach students those foundational skills. And so that's great resources for us. And then lastly, I will share that Hartford Public Schools was invited to share our work on the national stage. Our Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, Daisy Torres-Hill, and our Director of Multilingual Learners, Joanna Robles, were invited to Washington, D.C. on behalf of the U.S. Department of Education and the Office of English Language Acquisition for the inaugural National Seal of Biliteracy Summit, where we were invited as a strong advocate and partner of the Seal of Biliteracy implementation at a local level. The summit, the purpose of the summit was to bring together national representatives and stakeholders to not only celebrate, but to recognize the importance of the Seal of Biliteracy. And some of you might recall the work that we've done over the past couple of years to increase the number of students that are awarded the seal. We continue to increase those numbers. Now we're over 200 students that received the seal. And it is something that we believe allows us to not only celebrate the strengths that our students bring, but it also continues to get our students ready for college and career. That concludes my report today.
Thank you, Superintendent. We would like to state that the Committee of the Whole met on July 9th. The board reviewed the Hartford Performs and Rise CT contracts that will be voted on tonight. And please note that this meeting was recorded and all the information is available through board docs. We will now move on to our business agenda. Item number 4.1 is contract continuation approval for Hartford Performs. The motion on the floor is that the Hartford Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute a contract with Hartford Performs for the term outlined in the contract ending June 30th, 2025, in an amount not to exceed $314,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Francoise Darrell Ledger.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Torres Rodriguez, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And I'll do a brief overview. And we have our team members here along with Reed Portier-Campbell, the Executive Director of Harvard Performs. And this is a contract continuation out of our Alliance grant. Hartford Performs has been a partner since 2009. The nonprofit organization was built specifically for and with Hartford Public Schools, focusing on our region's cultural resources to provide high quality experiences in the arts for students. They have talented teaching artists and programs that bring not only joy, but find creative ways to integrate our curriculum and promoting the arts as well as student engagement. The programs naturally also foster social, emotional development, making them particularly effective for our English learners and students who learn through other modalities. They provide both in-school and out of off-site programming, allowing students to experience the community, the cultural values across our communities. I will pause there and ask if you have any questions, knowing that for last year, the organization worked very closely with our arts and wellness director and middle school leadership and teaching staff to reform the structures specifically for middle school programming, which resulted in long-term artistic residencies for deeper learning and engagement and connections. That is something that we had requested. And so that is where I'll end with my introduction.
Thank you. Board members, are there any questions or is there any discussion on this contract?
I'm looking for the raise hand. I think I have a Zoom update and I can't find
That's
it.
okay. Go ahead, Ms. Brody.
It's before me though. I don't know if they were up or not. But that's my question. So for in committee, I did raise a concern of mine as it pertained to the children who do not have access to they won't have a music and art teacher or a music or art teacher. That number is not a huge number, but one of the things that we mentioned here in committee was that every student would be receiving services from Hartford Performs. And my concern was the students who do not have those unified procedures over and beyond the students who you have unified arts teachers. So I don't know I don't know. I would like for maybe someone from the superintendent team to be able to express our priority as a district, so we could, give those students who are lacking those teachers priority over teachers who enjoy a music and art teacher every day of the school year.
So yes, I'm happy to shed some insight on that, Board Member Brody and board members as a whole. Following last week's committee meeting, huge thanks to Tracy McCauley and Poirier Campbell just to acknowledge some of that feedback and information that we received. Actually pulled that data to look at, although this program is not intended at all to replace, hearing though that we want all of our students to have some exposure to arts. And so with that, just the team pulled some data that I believe was shared with the board that outlined the vacancies that schools currently hold in those areas, and also prioritize those schools if there were any vacancies, but also considering some other criteria just in terms of time spent in the arts and so forth. As a result, there were some additional practices that we outlined to ensure that we could, in fact, make sure that we are prioritizing those schools, keeping as well a balance for all schools to have, or all students to have exposure. What we determined was that we would do a mid-October as well as a January expenditure checkpoint, so that if there were schools that were not utilizing their funds at the rates that they had intended, that money could potentially be redistributed to those schools that perhaps had a gap in some way. And additionally, outside of the money that's allocated for the programming, those specific teachers get some funding for classroom programming. And so a second step that we identified as well was that if there was a vacancy, we would not skip over that school or not allow that school the funding. They would still receive that funding for that teacher allotment and could in fact use those monies to enhance programming selections in the upcoming year. I will ask Ms. McCauley or Ms. Poria Campbell, is there anything you want to add, or did that wrap it up?
Nope, I think you covered it, Dr. Ratley.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to Mr. Tatum.
Thank you. Let me lower my hand. All right. So I am in support of the motion to approve this contract for the excellent programming that this partnership provides for our students. However, it does raise broader questions that we've been discussing here about the role that Hartford Performs is playing in the ecosystem given teaching vacancies that exist. And I hope that as a board, we can create space for some of that conversation as well. Just to call out some of the data that was provided to the board, explaining like how the Hartford Performs programs would be allocated in the district, which again, I think I'm in agreement with the strategy of making sure that these programs can be in those schools that are experiencing shortages. But some of the data was kind of shocking to me, at least if I'm understanding it correctly. There are roughly 10,000 students in K through 8 in the district. And currently 40% of those students attend a school where there is a vacant teaching position in either art or music. And 28% of students attend a school where the school isn't able to meet minimum recommended staffing ratios that allow for a full access to arts programming. So that was just like a sobering statistic to read from the data that it's about 40% of the 10,000 K through 8 students that attend a school with a vacancy in art or music. So I hope that we can begin to address some of those questions in other conversations about why there are those vacancies and what we can do to retain and attract teachers for those positions. In the meantime, it makes sense that we're trying to respond equitably to that gap. And again, I'm in favor of approving this contract with Hartford Performs. And like, hopefully we can do more to address the inequality so we don't have to do as much equity allocation on the back end. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Darcel Ledger.
Yes, thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. My question, well, first I wanted to state for public consumption, just to confirm that Hartford Performs is not going to be replacing any of the positions, the vacant positions, the arts and music positions that are existing in the district. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. And the other question, and also to confirm that, not so much to confirm, but just for public consumption, once again, these are not certified classroom teachers. This is a program that is separate, that is coming to enhance and enrich our Hartford Public School students, correct?
That is correct.
And one more thing, just to confirm, even though there are vacancies that are that exist in some of the schools, the funds that were allocated for those teachers that are not present, that may not be there, the schools will not be skipped over, and they will still receive those funds for some programming from Hartford Performs. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have. I just wanted to confirm those things.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from the board members? Mr. Walker?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The question is, well, comment and a question. The question is about the middle school programming with the long-term artists, and can we describe how that kind of program is working, and more broadly, how the program is working with curriculum and enrichment?
Ms. McCauley?
Sure. I actually might ask Ree Poirier-Campbell to also tap in, just because some of my details on the middle school programming might be a little blurry. So we engaged with our middle school leaders and some of our teachers, I believe 3 years ago now, because there was a need to restructure the way that our middle school programming was operating, noticing that the students were less engaged as they were when they were in the elementary grades. And so responding to sort of the adolescent age and the need to go deeper and longer with a more project-based approach was really what came out of this sort of committee of curiosity of what could come next. And so we engaged in putting together some pilots of long-term residencies. And Ree, can you tell me about are they 5 weeks in total or longer than that?
No, they're 10 weeks. They're
10
10
weeks. I apologize. Ree, can you tell us about how long and the hours and how the selection process for the programming works?
Sure. We give schools a lot of autonomy actually in how they structure it. So they can do one long residency of 180 hours, or they can do a couple residencies of 90 hours apiece. And the way some schools have done it is one school this year combined, they had a partnership between their Spanish language class and their music class, and they had a teaching artist in to do kind of dual programming for that. Others have strengthened their music departments. So our music teaching artist paired with the teacher in the certified music teacher, and that it enabled them to do sections, different kind of musical instruments, and kind of get their whole band and musical program up and running. Others have strengthened their visual arts programs. Others have done murals in their schools, so kind of long-term programs that students have something to show at the end, something that they can be proud of at the end.
There is usually a culminating experience at the end as well, such as a performance or a demonstration of some sort. The superintendent had come a couple of times to those. So they're really they're very thoughtful in terms of the way that they are planned at the beginning of the school year. The principal and their team really selects a teacher who is very interested in doing a long-term project of some sort or strengthening an aspect of their arts programming. And so it's been very successful the past few years that we have run this model.
Thank you. And I have other questions, but I may forego those. I think to make a comment. Harvard Performs is a fine institution who has a long-term commitment to Harvard and relationship with Harvard. As a board member, my greater commitment is certified arts and music for every student in the district. And so the length of this relationship does have one question our commitment as a district to assure that we get a teacher in every classroom. And so I really would like to have this conversation within the broader framework of what we are doing to meet that commitment. It appears that we've been able to find somewhere between $200,000 to $300,000 every year for at least a decade to support this program. And while that won't solve world hunger, it feels like that would put actual certified staff in schools who would make educationally impactful differences in the lives of our children in terms of art and music. And if I can't help every student in the district, I would prefer to have a commitment from us as a board to get impactful arts and music education to as many students as possible. And so what I saw in Harvard Performs was a lot of enrichment. I do see some educational value in this long-term artist program, but a lot of it is in enrichment. And enrichment is not solid music and arts education. We all need enrichment. And so I support that. But moving forward, I would like to have this conversation right alongside with here's what we're doing to increase art and music. And this enrichment is also something we're doing along the way with a goal that we love what you're doing. But at some point, I almost would love to see this be sunsetted or move in a different direction because we have all the arts and music that we need within the district. And Harvard Performs is truly just enrichment and not a supplement for what we're not providing our students. I traveled to Vernon in another capacity, and I was amazed at the wonderful art offerings, music offerings, and how it impacted the students and people who would go to school in Vernon. I just believe that Harvard students deserve the same. And so I'm really saying here for public consumption that we need to have this within that context of commitment for arts and music. And so when we talk about this next season, I really would like the district leadership to also have alongside, and here's monies that we're doing to build art and have that list every year. And let's look at how we're burning that list down from the number of vacancies. And so the Mr. Tatum can talk about more students having art and music in their lives and our commitment to deliver it to them. That's my statement about this offering. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brody?
Yes, because I know we're having a conversation, which is awesome, about the having permanent music and art teachers, but we do have vacancies, correct? Because I know Dr. Ratley, I believe, spoke to the schools, or someone tonight spoke to the schools that have vacancies and how the money was going to be, the money for that vacancy is going to be used in a creative way. That was I believe that was a part of the presentation. So I want to just keep with the fact that while we want music and art teachers in every school, and is not every school, I don't want to say is not afforded the opportunity to have a music art teacher. That might not be worded correctly, but we have to also acknowledge that we have music and art vacancies that are not filled. So it's not like we have a slew of music art teachers saying, I'm in a position at that school, I'm going to take it. Like, we do have lacking those teachers as we are lacking teachers in other areas. So we're saying that, of course, every child deserves a music and art teachers, but there are some of our schools, correctly tonight, vacancy, there's not a member hired for that position. So I'm just trying to make sure I heard that correctly.
Ms. Brody, you were coming in and out. So if I can try to address what I think I heard, one was relative to the fact that you wanted us to confirm that there are vacancies. And so if that is something that you were asking about, yes, there are vacancies. For example, we ended the year as of July 2024, for example, we had 7 vacancies in art. July 1st, 2024, 7 art vacancies.
Okay, sorry for my in and out. I just wanted to acknowledge that we have, like, we're not a district saying, okay, we have all of these schools who want music and art. We don't have it. You know, art and music teachers are not knocking down the door saying, give me an opportunity. We have schools with music and art, and we don't have those positions filled. I just wanted to get that on the record. Thank you. So that's another, I know that's for another meeting when we talk about we need to recruit and retain and all of that. But for the sake of this conversation, we're struggling with hiring them anyway. So that lends to why I would support Hartford Performs tonight, because while we're trying to hire for those positions, we don't have them in some schools also. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Walker?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think I'm going to reiterate the length of this contract has me questioning our commitment. And so I know it's challenging, it's difficult. We need to hold ourselves accountable for moving the needle. And so all I'm asking for is let's elevate this goal and really track it. My feeling as a board member who's been here for 2.5 years is certain things just haven't had enough of our focus. Whereas in front of us, the numbers are in front of us, and our commitment as a board, as a district, to really tackle it. And so what I'm committing to is let us all as a district leadership look at the numbers right now and be committed that next year it won't be as large as it is, and that the monies that we have, let's have the money smartly used to fill these positions. We switched positions at halftime this year, and still we can't fill positions. And I know it's not ideal, but that's all. I'm going to stop there. But please let's take this commitment to ourselves to really tackle this issue. Our children just deserve art and music in the district.
Thank you. Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the contract signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Nays? Abstentions? Right. The ayes have it. The motion moves. Thank you. Moving on to item 4.2, contract continuation approval of CT Rise. Motion that the Hartford Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute a contract with CT Rise for the term outlined in the contract ending June 30th, 2025, in an amount not to exceed $187,784. Do I have a motion? Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Superintendent, the floor is yours.
Thank you. This partnership between Hartford Public Schools and CT Rise has been an active and valuable one for several years. The work will be primarily funded through our last of our ESSER funds through 2025, which is a continuation of work that began with the Barr Foundation funding that supported our foundational work around our post-secondary continuum for our high schoolers. And specifically through this year, we propose for RISE to continue to foster ongoing professional learning communities among the high school's grade 9 assistant principals, freshman academy teacher leaders that are integrated into those professional learning academies on a bi-monthly basis so that they can continue to deepen their efforts towards our freshman academy success model. Coaching grade 9 assistant principals specifically around leadership for freshman success through regular sessions with each administrator and also supporting their work with those specific teacher leaders. Their support with the grade 9 on track data meetings. If you remember, we've talked about we monitor and make sure that students stay on track through graduation, specifically in the 9th grade. It is a predictor of graduating on track and on time. And then making sure that we maintain the RISE data dashboards that do provide our administrators, but also our educators with user-friendly data tools to drive student success. I will pause there and see if there are any questions. And we have, of course, our representatives from our academic team, Dr. Ratley and Suzanne Palmieri are here. And also, of course, I see Sam Purdy from CT Rice.
Thank you. Mr. Walker?
Thank you. This is, I guess, for district leadership. This program's funding is going to end this year. So can we track and anticipate like the capacity building? Is there a plan for building that capacity amongst instructional staff so they can essentially take this over? That's what's anticipated to happen with this program.
Yes, and I can ask Suzanne and also Sam to speak to not just the professional learning, but the systems, the structures, the processes, procedures that will be able to, right, not only learn now, but then continue later.
Yes, good evening, board. So I would like to say that this has been such a pleasure working with Sam and Rise and really helping provide all of the important supports for 9th grade success for the district. And really, Board Member Walker, that's a huge part of this contract tonight is moving towards sustainability. So yes, we are very focused this year in terms of this contract in the continuation to now that we really have this as fabric, you know, the Freshman Academy, I'm sure you've all gone through the documents that have been provided for you. Our Freshman Academy is something that has become really part of the fabric of our schools and in terms of the comprehensive high schools and Kinsella. And the work that's done there is part of the day-to-day running now. And so what we want to do is take that, lift it, lift those professional learning communities that have become so valuable to our leaders and to our teachers and to counselors that are part of the work now and to the students whose voices are lifted in their on-track conferencing and make sure that those are sustained outside of just the RISE contract so that we can really free up RISE and new partnerships that we can have to equitably distribute these things throughout the district now that we actually have been able to put these things in place in the original high school redesign models that we had put forward. So yes, in terms of our professional learning community structures, absolutely we are moving towards a sustainable model inside of this contract. The other piece is the data, and I love the way Superintendent, you put friendly data. And so one of the things that was lifted in public comment was around like, we already have data tools. Well, this tool is very different. The hub pulls together, the RISE Data Hub pulls together together all of our data tools, and it's very friendly. We have some feedback that it comes straight from teachers that after 20 years, these are the best in the district. These are the best data tools, and this can be shared with you. I think it actually was on one of the slides, but we can either share, Christine, I think we can share this slide that was actually, we had taken it out because we didn't want the committee slides to be too long, but we can share this feedback survey with you. Sam, I think we have it as well. We could drop it in if anybody wants to look at the feedback. However, the PLCs themselves, professional learning communities, have great feedback, but the Data Hub, that has wonderful feedback because it's very friendly. They can go to one place and see all of their students' data, and the students as well can see it and understand it and make decisions about their learning and growth. And Sam, I want to tag you and make sure that I answered that question, but also make sure that you have a chance to add.
Yes, although Board Member Walker, if there's something in that that you want to respond to.
Yes.
No, thanks. I'm just going to second Suzanne's request to let's see that feedback. I think for the Data Hub, particularly from the end users or the teachers, that would be great to see and to track to make sure that it stays that way as it kind of moves forward.
Right.
Yeah. So Suzanne, I mean, the slide that was in the presentation is we wanted to get representation from all different types of roles, different schools, different aspects of the partnership. But we had teachers, counselors, and administrators complete a survey specifically on the hub at the end of the year, asking us to sort of say, 0 to 10 on what would be your level of to which you'd recommend the hub to a fellow educator as a useful and productive tool. And from Hartford specifically, we had responses exclusively in the 9s and 10s from all of those roles, right? In fact, it was all 10s except for one person rated it a 9. With feedback that they added, right, of on-track conferencing that was enabled with students, easier access to see the impact of the things that they were doing on students. So, I tell people all the time, this tool is not perfect. It's still being developed, but one of the great things is it's being developed with educator voice. So we actually have Hartford educators who have become part of a, cross-district advisory crew that shares their feedback, not just through surveys, but through meetings, conversations with my colleagues who actually develop the tool, so that they're seeing it in action, seeing the teams use it, and planning adjustments and improvements based on how it's actually going.
Thank you. Ms. Fortune?
So my takeaway is that there's two pieces here. There are these practices that are being implemented in the classrooms at the 9th grade level that Ms. Camilleri, you said the schools essentially want to adopt and continue those well after the partnership with RISE, if that doesn't continue on for years. But there's also this portion of the data, which I imagine is shared through some type of software that Connecticut RISE has developed. How would you continue to have access to this user-friendly data without this partnership? And do you think the program could be equally successful without this access to the data itself?
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, Suzanne. Our aim is to pull that in-house with our Open Architects tool that we are spearheading this year. And so therefore, we're using this year to move that data over to that tool that our schools already use.
Just for added context and background, Open Architect is, we have a partner that is actually helping us build all our internal dashboards, Ms. Fortune, and so that we won't have a reliance on an external, platform, if you will.
I guess I'm still hung up on the part where we said we have lots of data available, but particularly this data was just much more user-friendly. It's viewed in a very sort of aggregate way where you can see all the information. Is that being factored into the project to bring all of that in-house in an effort to ultimately make it more sustainable and eventually possibly save costs.
Yes, that is being considered into the design of the in-house dashboards, which Ms. Santiago, please remind me to give access to some of the beta dashboards that we have for our new board members.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mills?
So I guess my question is, the data that we are tracking presently, is it capable of tracking it post high school? So I feel like if we are tracking this now in 9th grade, education for education's sake is great, but I feel like we should be able to do something to figure out what impact this is having post high school. And maybe that's just me with wishful thinking and not understanding enough about it, but is there anything that we can do to track that further?
Suzanne, Ms. Palmieri, do you want to speak to or even Sam, like National Clearinghouse data and I guess the pluses and even the limitations of that?
So currently, I mean, Sam, you can speak to this wider too, but I just know that as a district, that is a priority. We have been speaking at great length over the year, and so I'm the director of strategic initiatives and pathways, and as we are, as a larger conversation, even past this contract, knowing where our students are going is the most important data set, where they end up and how successful they are. And so I'm going to send it over to Sam now in terms of this particular contract or seeing where this ends up. But I do want you to know that that's a district priority. It is top of mind. And so I wanted the board to know that.
Yeah, I'll just add, I think, I think you were putting down your question or something. It's the question. I mean, that's a great question. And it's something that we at RISE, as partners to Hartford, as partners to other districts across the state, think about a lot. National Student, I think the superintendent was referencing, National Student Clearinghouse data is a lot to clean. The files can be really, really tricky and complicated given the number of different things that can be going on for a student. But that said, once you unlock what's contained of a student entering, stopping out, re-enrolling in a 2-year or a 4-year or a trade program, it's incredibly, I guess, instructive, right, in answering those key questions. We are, through our data sharing agreement with the district, I believe have been at least discussing how we can integrate some of the National Student Clearinghouse data into a future version of the RISE Data Hub to help answer some of those very same questions. So it's obviously not something to speak to at the moment in terms of what those numbers say, but I think it's a great question and it's on our minds too.
Thank you. Mr. Tatum?
Thank you. Just a couple questions. First, could somebody clarify the funding source for this contract? I've seen like different information about whether it's from ESSER funds or the general budget or portions of the contract being from one source and portions from another. Could someone speak to that? And also speak to what difference that makes or why that matters, practically speaking.
Dr. Ratley, can you confirm? I know that last year we leveraged ESSER funding, and I thought we were going to leverage ESSER funds into this year, but you might correct me.
Yes, I think there was some braiding of funds for this particularly, and what that means in terms of future board member Tatum is that where ESSER funds were leveraged, they would no longer be considered, which of course is why we are looking toward that longevity plan in terms of sustainability and moving those practices in-house.
So the $187,000 would be coming not from ESSER money, but from general budget for this contract?
Yes, that is my understanding. When I say braiding of funds, sometimes there could be sources from other areas that are pushed in. So like if there were ESSER funds plus general funds that were used to cover the cost, that's what I mean by braiding.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add, I'm sorry, Mr. Tatum,
Sure.
one specific thing here is that ESSER funds, for those that aren't aware, we're only leveraging ESSER funds through the first quarter of this year. Unlike in the last 2 years where we were able to leverage for the entire year.
Thank you. That's helpful. Next short question is about the survey data that Sam, you mentioned. I'm really curious to hear like what the user end of the data hub is like, and I'm just wondering about how many survey responses were in that. Like you said, it was 9s and 10s kind of across the board. How many people responded to that survey?
From Hartford, we had all of our coaching recipients, which across the 4 schools, 3 each, so 12 recipients. And what I can pull up but don't have at the moment is the percentage across all the schools' teams, which was 40-something respondents who, and I'll not multitask, but I'll try to give that to you in chat or something in a moment, but is who were asked as part of the annual Freshman Academy survey, not just sort of our coaching survey, the utility of the data hub and what it provides. So I'll pull that as well, but that was also actually a big increase from last year as we increased some of our training in response to feedback last year, which was still pretty good, but not as high as we wanted. I'll also just say, mentioned curiosity about what the hub, sort of looks like. And that's something that obviously through coordination with the district staff, we'd be happy to facilitate a demonstration of the hub either in a school, in the context of an actual meeting or where it's being utilized or separately. So I can pull some of that broader data beyond the coaching recipients.
And the coaching recipients, I know the contract mentions that the coaching is primarily with the administrators, the assistant principals. Were there also like teacher leaders involved in the coaching cycle? Or?
Yeah, I should say coaching recipients and professional learning attendees. So we have the coaching, you're right, is the administrators. The professional learning is the administrators, and then their team leads and counselor leads. So that 12 is where that came from.
Okay. Then more broadly, I guess, and to anybody, this discussion for me begs the question of if we have an eye towards sustainability for this project, are we not already able to do this meaningful work in-house? And like what really justifies the $187,000 from the general budget if I'm reading the contract correctly again, $50,000 of that is for access to this data hub that we won't have eventually. I understand we're building a replacement. Could we make do in the meantime and save $50,000? And the coaching that's provided is certainly meaningful. I think one of the biggest benefits of coaching and consulting like this is that it helps leaders and teachers prioritize this work given all of the demands on our time, on staff time. But again, that to me makes me wonder, like, can we not do that management and prioritization ourselves and save the money that would be spent on the consultants?
Board Member Tatum, I'll respond to that. The data platform, we're not ready to launch internally at this point in time, and it will take reviewing the current platform that schools use and ensuring that we have the same view from the platform that we will have in-house. In addition, when we think about coaching, but then also the professional learning that comes in play right now, we are leaning on CT Rise for that. So to transfer that knowledge, transfer who's going to do what, will take a span of time. Meantime, we did not want things to drop, our students to basically not benefit from this work and this practice while we do that transference of knowledge and practice. And then also to launch in other schools for next year, we have to start with building their understanding around these practices that actually help to increase ninth graders' connectivity to school. And so just wanting to take it and make sure that we are able to leverage the expertise from CT Rise as we go into next year without things just dropping and teachers and parents or other school staff being used to using it, but just kind of taking our time to make sure that we do the transfer well.
Thank you. That's helpful. And your comment reminded me of one other question I had. This work has primarily been done at Hartford Public High School so far. Is that correct? Or
It started at Hartford Public High School, and then in the last couple of years, it went through our comprehensives, the three comprehensive high schools, and because Weaver and Kinsella share, our in-house, we thought let's just leverage the resources across the entire campus.
I did notice, I will, I maybe it's the former teacher in me, but I do love the data. I was looking at the chronic absenteeism data for the district available in EdSite by school. And one trend that really popped out to me was that the chronic absenteeism rate at Hartford Public High School in particular has declined more rapidly than other schools in the district. And there could be lots of factors for that, but certainly the approach that CT Rise sounds like is doing strikes me as a very effective intervention strategy for leading to some of these crucial turnarounds for that ninth grade. So just wanted to shout that out as well, that at least the data that I was looking at, things look like at Hartford High, at least in terms of chronic absenteeism, have made big strides.
Would I be able to share the data that I didn't have at hand for Board Member Tatum? Is that okay? All right. So like I mentioned, we surveyed not just the coaching recipients, but all ninth grade team members across the 4 schools the superintendent mentioned where we've been doing the work. In school year 22-23, to the item, the RISE Data Hub helps our team use data effectively. We had 81% agreement among the 40 plus respondents this year, 40 plus respondents again, and we saw a 90% agreement with that. I'm still going to ask, that 10% we want to learn more about, right? But we're really pleased with that, and so that is one data point that speaks to that broader audience in terms of satisfaction with the use of data through the hub.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion from board members? Seeing none. The motion on the floor is that the Hartford Board of Education authorize the superintendent to execute a contract with CT Rise for the term outlined in the contract ending June 30th, 2025 at an amount not to exceed $187,784. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll vote a nay.
Nay, thank you. Abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion moves. Thank you. Now we move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda items include 5.2, appointments of school board committee member Corey Mills, and 5.3, approval of the minutes. Any comments or questions on the consent agenda? Seeing none, do I have a motion to vote on the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nays? Abstentions?
I'm sorry, could I ask one question? I realize I'm out of order.
Yeah.
The I'm in board docs and in 0.55.3 approval of minutes. The recommended action is to motion to approve minutes as attached, but I don't see the attached minutes. Are they in the packet?
Christina?
It is a link, or it should be a link once you're in there. And if that's not the case, let me rectify that right now. Yep, just go
Okay,
ahead.
I do see it in the packet. So I'm set. Thank you.
And it is now in board docs.
Thank you.
Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you. Next, we will move on to the executive session, where we will be speaking with the superintendent, who will be presenting data in reference to her evaluation. Is there a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it. We will be taking with us into executive session Superintendent Torres Rodriguez, Attorney Lori Meserek, and Christina Santiago.